All right, we're going to do the Design Hardware 416 closer. We're going to mount it in a parallel arm style mount. Now the 416 closer will mount in 3 different configurations. The parallel arm mount we're going to do today, the closer itself will mount on the face of the door and the arm will mount on a bracket on the under stop. Now when you mount the door parallel arm, you can mount it 3 different ways. We can have the door open 120 degrees, we can have the door open to 100 degrees, 120 degrees, or all the way to 180 degrees. For today's demonstration, we're going to set the 416 up to pull the door open at 100 degrees. So the first thing we want to do, we're going to kind of look at the installation sheet, get yourself familiar with it, then we're going to need to lay out the door, lay out the frame. Like I said, we're going to 100 degrees. So if we want it to go to 100 degrees, we need to pick our dimension. We need to lay it out from the edge of the pivot edge of the hinge on the door face. So our first mark over will be 9 7/16. There again, like I said, from the pivot, 9 7/16, which is right there. And then we'll go from that mark. Everything else lays out from that mark. Our next mark is 1 inch over from that point. We're going to go 1 inch, mark that. Now if you'll notice there's a lot of holes already in this door. We put on quite a few demonstrations today. I'm going to try to circle my holes, kind of keep track of them. And our next 2 holes for the closure on the door, we have to measure over from this hole 3 inches and put a line. And then our other hole is 1 inch over from there. So we put another line. Now those holes are 2 1/4 inches down from that point. So normally how I do that is I come back to my original hole right here and I'll mark this 2 1/4 inches down. And then I'll take that mark and I'll reference it from the top of the door to take it over there. That's right at 5. So I'll bring that over here and we're right at 5, and bring this over and we're right at 5. Now in order to bring those marks down from the top, I'll use my little square, level off of them, come right down, and as you'll see, we already have some holes there from an earlier demonstration, but there they are. Now that's the door laid out. Now we've got to lay out the top of the jamb. On the top of the jamb, you want to lay it out, there again, from the pivot point of the hinge, not from the stop. You don't want to have it on the stop. Measure from the pivot point of the hinge. Your dimension on here we want to go is 9 7/16. So we're going to take that, bring that over onto the stop.
Oh, sorry, I thought this was the bathroom. Sorry.
Oh, okay, no problem. So we want to take the 9 7/16. We're going to bring that over and lay that out on the head of the stop. Now normally what I do, then I'll take the parallel arm bracket. We'll take the bracket out of the box, take the parallel arm, we hold it up, and then we'll use it to lay out the rest of the holes. Get them laid out. There again, we've got a lot of holes in there. So I'm going to use my marker just to double mark them to make sure we get them in the right place. Now we've got the stop laid out, we've got the door laid out. What I would do if this was a new door, on the holes in the door itself, the marks, I would pre-punch those. You want to punch them with a center punch. On a metal door, go ahead and hit it pretty hard. You want to get a good sized dent in it. It'll make it easier with that self-drilling, self-tapping screw. Then you want to go ahead and do the same thing on the frame. Punch that stop. Then I would take my 3/16 inch drill, and even though this door's already got all these holes drilled in it, we're going to demonstrate that we would take a 3/16, and I would pre-drill this very first hole that I laid out. Just pre-drill that one, and you go to put your closer on with the self-tapping, self-drilling screw, it'll just make it a whole lot easier. And then we'll drill the head the same way. Pre-drill one in the head. That way when you're holding the bracket, that screw just runs in a whole lot better. So now we've got the door laid out, we've got the jam laid out. Time to take the box, let's get everything out of it. We've already gotten out of there the bracket for the parallel arm. This is the 416 body. The 416 arm. On the arm, you'll notice it's got two basic parts. It's got the forearm and the main arm. The forearm is the adjustable part. On the end of the forearm is a foot. We've also got in here, got a design cover. Then we've got a screw pack. In our screw pack, this is a universal pack. I'm gonna go ahead and dump it out. It's got screws in here to attach it. A wood door to a wood frame. Several different applications for parts that you won't need. You'll have extra pieces, don't worry about it. You wanna dump the screw pack out, get all the screws out of there. Then we want to get the self-tapping, self-drilling metal screws. That's the ones we're going to use to attach the body. Now the body will attach with the cylinder part on the parallel arm is away from the hinges. So this will make this our first screw. What I like to do is jump ahead a step here. And we're going to have to put the closer on here eventually. When you go to put the cover on the closer, there's two small screws that go on the top to attach the cover. If you go ahead and set those screws in there now, it'll make it a whole lot easier for you. It comes with a small Allen wrench. Out of your closer pack, you want to get the flat top screw, take your Allen, set it up, just to make sure you're getting it in the right application. Pull the door closed. Your closer will mount like this. So your cover screws are going to need to go on the top of your closer. Go ahead and set it in there. You can do this later if you miss this, if you forget this step now, but it really will just make it a whole lot easier on you if you can get those in there now. We'll set those two screws, and then you can just forget about them for a little bit. Now we're going to install this with the cylinder away. This is the first hole we laid out. So we go ahead and take that hole, lay it out. That's the one we're going to drill. Just hold the closing body in place. And as you notice, those are a pretty good challenge to get in there, even when it's not pre-drilled. I mean, even when it is pre-drilled. Think about it if it wasn't pre-drilled. So the first couple times you put one of these on, you probably want to go ahead and pre-drill them. Now I come down here on the one on the bottom, go ahead and run it in. All right, there's the body attachment. Quite the attachment. It's a good closer. Now we want to put the bracket on the frame itself. We've already got our holes laid out. We've pre-drilled the one, so let's go ahead and run the screw in it and hold it in place. And I always like to take it and set the further away screw next, just because it helps you square the thing up a little bit. Just come over here, get it nice and square. Go ahead and run that screw in. Now in this application, all 5 of these screws will screw to the stop because it's wide enough. But there are some stops that have a narrow, some door frames have a narrow stop on them. You will need to take the spacer and it will slide in there and you run your screw in on top of that. In this application, we don't have to do that. Lucky there. got the bracket attached to the frame, we got the closer attached to the door. Now let's talk about the arm. Take the arm, we're going to want to take the arm apart at the forearm. We're going to take that screw out, make sure you hang on to it because you'll need it here in a little bit. First thing we're going to do is attach the main part of the arm onto the closer body itself. Now if you look at that, the arm is an octagon shape to drop onto the octagon shaft. But you're going to have to preload this closer. What that means is you have to put a little bit of torque on that shaft to get the arm to line up in the right spot. So I always use a pair of vice grips just because it will stay on there for me. But you can do this with a 1/2 inch wrench. You need to turn it about, not even 1/4 of a turn. Line that shaft up on the arm and then drop the whole thing down on there. First couple times you try that, you might want to try it from a ladder or something so you can kind of see what you're doing from the top. Once it drops in place, it'll have some torque on it. It will hold the arm against the door. Then you want to go ahead and take your screw, large round head screw, set that arm on there. There we go. Now you want to take the foot, which is attached to the part of the forearm that you took off, and you'll find 2 very short 1/4 screws in here. Take the small 1/4 screws, use them to attach the foot onto the bracket. If you look at the foot, it's got on it what I call a long side and a short side. You always want the long side towards the hinges. All right, now that we've got that attached, we want to take the screw we had earlier that we took out of the forearm, bring the door closed. Now as you get the door about 3/4 of the way closed, you have to start lining this forearm pieces back up and slide them together. And I always just pull it over. You want to run that screw in it, find where the screw goes, run it down in there. And you can use a 3/8 inch wrench on this. There again, I'll just use the vice grips. It's kind of a tool of the trade for me. Pull that over till that arm is roughly parallel with the stop and tighten it up. There we go. Now basically that's it, it's installed. We'll have to use the valves to adjust it. What you want to do on the 416, you have 3 adjustment valves. You have one for the sweep, which is this portion, one for the latch, which is that portion, and then one for the back check. What the back check will do is when the door gets open about 90 degrees, the back check will kick in and start slowing it down so the wind won't grab it and whip it out of your hands. It's generally what we're going to start with. You want to start with the latch speed. Your control valves are laid out right here on the picture, on the barrel of the closer. Makes it pretty simple. So we're going to start with the latch speed. We're going to slow it down just a little bit. Swing the door open and give it a try. See how it does. Then we want to get into the sweep speed. On the sweep, you want to be able to count 15 from the time this door is open till it comes closed. Kind of count that in my head. You get in the habit of putting a lot of these on. You'll count that all the time as you're doing it, almost rhythmically. Then you're going to want to set the back check. The back check is want it to kick in right there at about 90 degrees. Just a matter of turning the back check valve. You're going to turn about a 1/4 turn each time, and you'll feel it kick in. And once you got those 3 speeds adjusted, you're comfortable with the way the door goes. Now, the 416 closer also has a power control on it, which you can make it swing even harder. Not faster, but harder. What you might need to do if you've got a panic on here, a lot of hardware, maybe a kick plate or something, you're going to want to set that power setting up a little bit. If you're in a windy situation, same problem. That's on the end of the barrel. All you do is set your Allen wrench in there, And I started about with a full turn or 2 half turns with the wrench. It won't affect your speeds, won't affect anything but your power. What it does is it gives it from about right here to close, that last little bit, lets it hit good and hard. Now that you've got your speed set, you got your back check all taken care of, everything is good, you want to take your cover out. Now your cover has plugs in it that snap in place. You just unsnap them. Now keep in mind, they permanently snap out. So once you snap it out, you're done. And then you've got notches. That's where those screws come into that we came in earlier. You got that screw in place. All you got to do is take the closer cover, slide it over the notches, take the small Allen wrench provided by Design Hardware, put it in there, and turn them. And as you'll see, this can be a little bit difficult. That's why you want to start the screws before you get to this point. Now you can't always put them in after the fact, but after you do that a few times, you'll start remembering, hey, I better put those in first. And there you go. So the case is on, arm is set, everything works, door closes. I always like to check it one time after I put it all together, open it to 90, let it come closed, boom, make sure it works. All right.